Okay, you're all set.
All right, thanks. Thank you for joining the City of Kingston Common Council at our Laws and Rules meeting today. Today is February 17th, and before we begin, we would like to go over a few guidelines to help us navigate the system as efficiently and respectfully as possible. We ask that members of the public and press remain muted and off camera for the length of the meeting. The moderator for tonight is City Clerk Elisa Tinti, and she reserves the right to mute anyone who unmutes themselves. Council members and city staff will control their own mute button. Good practice would be to mute yourself if you are not speaking to avoid background noise and feedback. All of our meetings are recorded. Both video and written transcriptions will be made available to the public on the city's website. Although we will not be taking public comment tonight, you can sign up to speak at our monthly Common Council meeting. Please email Elisa Tinti to sign up by noon of the day of the meeting, or you can submit written comment for the record by the same deadline. The email address is emtinti@kingston-ny.gov. You can also drop comments off at the drop box outside of City Hall. We also encourage you to reach out to your committee chairs and your ward's representative at any time. Elisa Tinti is the moderator for today's meeting, and she has the right to lock and pause the meeting to eject anyone who has behaved inappropriately. Lastly, at tonight's meeting, we have in attendance myself, Jeffrey Ventura Morel, Chair, committee members, Rennie Scott Childress, Patrick O'Reilly, Rita Worthington, and Don Tellerman. Non-voting council members, Alderwoman Michelle Hirsch and Alderman Tony Davis. City staff, we have Mayor Steve Noble, City Clerk Elisa Tinti, City Planner Suzanne Cahill, City Zoning Enforcement Officer Eric Kitchen, and City Corp Counsel Dan Gardenstein. Thank you for your patience during these difficult times, and on behalf of the Common Council, we wish you and your family good health. I now call this meeting to order at 6:36 p.m. Okay. So good evening, everyone. We have Suzanne Cahill here. She has a meeting to attend, so I'm hoping to cover this item first. The planning board has submitted a request to change the language on the city code regarding the planning board membership. Suzanne, Sue, do you want to speak on this?
Actually, the communication came from the mayor, and I believe he is going to speak on that.
Okay.
With Dan Gartenstein, and I will chime in. I am in full support of the request.
Okay. Hi, Mayor Noble.
Hi, Jeffrey, and thank you, Sue. I will just want to preface my letter by saying first, thank you for accepting this late communication. When we, at the end of December, we had a longtime planning board member and longtime city employee retire. It was one of the two planning board members currently in the code that is appointed by the mayor that is required to be a city employee. There's another member of the planning board, also a city employee, who announced recently that he plans to retire in the weeks ahead. And so in thinking of that and assessing our city code, I recognize that we are one of the only municipalities that has the word shall. Many offer the option and use the word may, so that city employees may serve on the planning board and be appointed by the mayor of that jurisdiction. But we ended up in our code having the words shall, which currently requires the mayor to have 2 of the 5 planning board members be city employees. And I think that it's time for us to amend the code. I think that it will give us more diversity in terms of the options that I, as the appointing authority, have in replacing these spots. While it doesn't preclude me from having future city employees serve on the board, I think that this will go a long way of having us have more options when it comes to making appointments in the future. And so because this was created, however, by local law, this would be just the beginning of a process. And so tonight, if the committee is so inclined to pass a committee report to change the one word from shall to may, this would go for a first reading at the March meeting, and then the second reading would be in the April meeting. And so that's why I appreciate the willingness to have this be a late communication so that we could get this process started as early as we could.
Yeah, and it's important to notice that the timeliness of this, because if the planning board is missing members, they can't have a quorum. So that will delay every process that they have to deal with. Go ahead, Dan Gartenstein.
Yeah, also just to point out, state law includes a provision with regard to permissive appointees who are staff members. Somehow our code misread the state law and converted that to shall. So this change would in essence bring us in conformance with state law. It's not just that other municipalities use the word may, other municipalities use the word may because that's what state law requires.
Okay. Do I see a motion to enter into discussion? Motion by Ronnie Scott Childress. Do I have a second? Second by Patrick O'Reilly. Okay. On the question? Ronnie Scott Childress, go ahead.
Well, actually, I just have a question. There may not be an answer to it, but I'm wondering if anybody has an idea of where that word shall came from. Dan suggested a misreading, but I don't know if there's any history there.
Yeah, I could probably explain it to you, but I'm not going to do it in public. If you want to call, it's it's a little convoluted and it's not worth discussing here. It's just a mistake.
We're just coming into conformity with state law.
Correct.
Okay.
All right. Don Tellerman, did I see your hand? Okay. Patrick?
Yeah, hi, Patrick O'Reilly. Sue Cahill, can you tell me why you want this to happen, why you're in favor?
Yeah. Let's see. I think, obviously, as the mayor said, the planning board is a very important agency representing the city of Kingston, and to provide for a larger pool or potential pool of candidates to be selected from as board members, I think is advantageous to us. Particularly, at this critical time when we're seeing a lot of development pressures coming into the city of Kingston. We want to make sure that we have the best board possible, the most educated, well-rounded board that represents various facets of the city. So this allows us to have that opportunity.
Okay, thank you, Sue. Am I still on, Jeffrey?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Mr. Gartenstein, and maybe Mayor Noble can help at this one. Why don't we just remove the fact that a city employee who is obviously under the mayor's leadership decide, employment decisions are made by the mayor directly to employees of the city of Kingston. Why don't we just remove them from the planning board altogether? Don't allow anyone who is influenced by the mayor to be on the board. Doesn't that sound like a better idea?
Because the state law is very clear and our code has to follow state law. State law says it's permissive and that it's within the discretion of the mayor. We are a lower form of government. We can't supersede what they say.
Are you sure about that?
Yes.
I would think, that you wouldn't want people on a board that you actually supervise. That would give me a feeling of for the employee might be a stressful situation, maybe uncomfortable at times, and for the mayor it might be uncomfortable too to have to tell a person what to do 1 minute and then they're making decisions about the large decisions about the city planning the next minute. I don't know. It just seems like a conflict of interest to me. I don't know why New York State wouldn't see the same way. But thank you, Mr. Gartenstein, for explaining that we don't have a choice. Thank you.
Alderman Davis?
Hello, thanks for inviting. Let me speak here. I'm just in regard to Patrick saying and Alderman O'Reilly, and it seems like that's a good suggestion, but in reality, we have it's difficult time enough now finding members of the public to sign up for these various boards that we have, and we still don't have enough. I believe members on the assessors board, and so now you're taking the option from the mayor to have at least two people that he can appoint from the city, and now you're asking for more people from the public to volunteer, and we're already having problems now filling some boards with committee members.
Thank you, Tony.
I appreciate that, Tony.
Anyone else on the question? Okay. Hearing no one else, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of amending the city code regarding the city planning board as per attached? Okay, all opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Mayor, are you hanging around for the task force discussion?
I was wondering, Chairman, if you thought it would be helpful to have me hang out. I'm happy to if you think that it would be helpful to the committee.
Yeah. It might be helpful since people might have questions. If we have Eric Kitchen here to discuss old business, it's going to be pretty short. He's just going to give a short description. If no one is opposed, I would like to let him speak so we don't have to wait so he doesn't have to stay until the end of the meeting. He's just going to give us an update on where he is with the poultry resolution. Is everybody okay with that? All right, go ahead, Eric.
Good evening, Mr. Morrell and members of the Laws and Rules Committees. As you know, when you last met, you have decided to take the law regarding chickens out of the zoning code and placing it into the chickens under the Chapter 151 of the City Code. And as I was tasked to do with Alderman Morrell and Alderman at Large Andrea Short, I did go ahead and I viewed the laws, the chicken laws, poultry laws, agricultural laws in other municipalities, other cities per se. One was the city of Rensselaer, another one was the city of Albany, and another one was a large town, the town of Poughkeepsie. And at the same time, I am also identifying the issues that we're experiencing here currently in Kingston, not just what the other cities are doing. So with that being said, I know you guys are going to meet again in 30 days. I would like 30 days to bring something back to you. I would like to prepare a proposal for you guys. I will make recommendations. and at that point in time. But what I also brought to Mr. Morell's attention this morning was, since we already have an existing chicken law in the city of Kingston, which has been there for a while, under 151, I would like to ask Mr. Gardenstein if he would agree with me that we could possibly take the existing chicken law we have that currently exists in chapter 151, and basically, instead of creating a new law, as far as the chicken goes, maybe amending the current law we have with the recommendations that I will bring forth to you folks for discussion at your next meeting in 30 days. And I want to know, Mr. Gardenstein, how he felt about amending versus a whole new law together, since we already have this on the books.
Yeah, Eric, that was the entire intention of moving it into the animal control, was to move it and then amend it and tailor it to our individual situation,
Correct.
rather than, creating a new statute that would, in any way be, duplicative of what's already there.
Sure. So, since that law was created, we've had a lot of changes here in Kingston, which you all know, our population has grown considerably over the last year and a half. And we're seeing more and more of a population of chickens. So it's a good time to amend these laws. Let me work on this. Spoke to Mr. Morell. I've told him I would continue to have conversations with him along the way between now and next month's meeting. And if anybody has any questions for me, please let me know.
Okay. So, so we're not taking any action tonight, so I'll just keep this on the agenda for next month, and hopefully we'll have some language. I've met with Eric twice since the last meeting, and we'll continue to meet and work together on this. A few of the things we're looking into is possibly requiring permits, things like safety of the chickens so that they're not running around freely in neighborhoods, cleanliness practices, proper storage of feed, etc. So we'll continue to look into laws in cities that are comparable to Kingston and tailor something that fits our situation.
Hi, Alderwoman Hirsch here. As a responsible chicken keeper, hen keeper, I just want to say that I think that there's a lot of community education that can be done on responsible keeping of pet chickens, and I don't believe that I know I've never ever been on the list of irresponsible chicken owners or had a complaint against me. So I think that it's fairly easy to help educate the public about this.
So I think there's a few different things here, and like Mrs. Hirsch said, Michelle said, one is education, and I had spoken, I don't know if it was to Andrea this morning, maybe prior or after our meeting. It was you, Jeff, that I don't know, possibly Cornell Cooperative. This is something that would be up to the committee here that will approve the amendment to the law, but there are a lot of owners out there that, and I don't know if it's because they're just being irresponsible or they just are not educated on how to take care of chickens. It's not like going out and getting a goldfish or getting another domestic animal. So that's something you can look at. We're possibly, we talked about maybe an informational packet that would be given to the applicants when they come down to apply at the building department. There would be a small fee. I've been reviewing applications in other towns and trying to tailor it towards our city. But like I said before, I believe we have to have a small application fee because this is going to take up more time consuming, and it has to be able to, generate and pay for itself. But these are things I'm working on with like I said, Alderman Morell and Mrs. Andrea Short, and I will have more information for you in 30 days.
And just to clarify, if we do approve a fee, that would have to go through the finance committee, not through this committee. Alderwoman Hirsch?
Yes, and I just want to mention that as a liaison to the CAC Conservation Advisory Council, they were also interested, very much in helping spearhead some community education and coordination with Cornell. So.
Oh, that would be great. Alderwoman Worthington?
Thank you, Jeffrey. I just, so right now, Eric, can you just explain the process right now? Is all of the complaints or calls or what have you, or is it going through your office right now? And when you get those calls, what actually happens?
So the calls come in through my office. They get directed to me. And of course, I have to go out and respond to the complaints and investigate the complaints. Most of the complaints I get there's two different kinds of complaints that I've been getting mostly lately. One is my neighbor's chickens are in my yard again. And the other complaint is roosters. There are a lot of, I can't say a lot, I don't know, but there are some residents that do have roosters at the current time. And then I go out and if I can't physically see the rooster, I'm not allowed to go on people's private property, but I do send them a letter telling them that our office has received a complaint, that you possibly have a rooster. It's not allowed, and I give 30 days notice to order to remedy the situation. Specifically, I think right now, one of the calls I'm getting most on is 40 Franklin Street. The neighbors there are filling my phone up, and I'm doing the best I can I sent notices to that property, to the person with the chickens, and I will be going back up there again tomorrow, because now I've been told that I may have access from another property that I could physically see and take pictures of the rooster, and then I will follow up with a letter tomorrow to these, giving them 30 days. And if not, then they will be feed after 30 days if the problem is not rectified.
I'm sorry, there'll be what?
There will be a fee assessed.
Okay.
There will be a fee assessed to the owner of these roosters if they do not find another home for them within 30 days.
Right. And
because it's taking a toll on the neighbors over there, and they're getting very uptight.
Right.
Oh, sorry, Rita.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, you're getting a lot of calls, and I get a lot of calls about it as well. And I just
we got one chance to really get this right, and I was explaining this to Jeffrey earlier when we had a meeting. Most of the yards in the city of Kingston are 50 by 100 or smaller. There's not too many quarter acre or half acre lots. There is, but not too many. So we have to realize that we have to really look at the setbacks on these properties and how close they're going to be to the neighboring properties. And I could see this becoming a nuisance for neighbors. And we have to be very careful, I think, and really take our time when we're trying to develop legislation for this, because you don't want this to come back and haunt us either. Another issue. I'll have you one more issue, Jeff, if I could. While we're on the topic, I'm also getting calls. I got a call a couple of days ago. A woman's looking to buy a property up on the top of Pearl Street, want to know how many goats she could have. I could see this thing kind of maybe growing out of proportion. So I think we have to really also not only address the chickens, but we also have to, what kind of farm animals are we going to allow in the city of Kingston? we got, you know.
Are any farm animals allowed in our code? Besides
Sorry?
chickens? Are any farm animals allowed in our code besides chickens?
They are, but if, like, once again, the zoning code did say, 200 feet from any street is what the old code said. So if we're amending this code, we need to look at other farm animals at the same time.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, so we'll see you next month, Eric. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your time this evening. Have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so since we're on old business, might as well just get through old business and then we'll continue with the regular agenda. Is that okay with everyone? Okay, so the next thing we have as old business is Clark Richter. I believe I saw him on the screen. He had sent a communication requesting for us to discuss public access television. He wasn't able to join us last month, but he's here today to speak on it. Clark, can you unmute yourself?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Hi, Clark.
Thanks for having me here today and speaking about that. Do you mind if I share the resolution that I'm talking about to the screen, or you're just...
Sure. We had it already. I think it's already on the agenda. Does everybody have that?
It's 137 of 1995.
Yes.
We've received this before.
Okay.
Yes, so we already have it on the agenda. So I believe everybody looked at it. It was on last month, and I had asked Elisa to put it on for this month again.
Okay, so I just wrote like a couple paragraphs down. I'm trying my best to, try to write everything down, make sure I don't forget anything. And, try to stay positive and try to keep advocating for the cable subscribers out there, which currently I just signed up. Not only I get internet, but now I'm signing up for cable now. So now I'm going to be paying that franchise tax, which I'm going to be talking about. So a long time ago, since 1995, Kingston used to be called Time Warner. They have to do a franchise tax for the right of way of the wires, the poles, and the streets and stuff like that. So basically, to make it simple, is they're allowed to collect an extra fee from the cable subscribers. Only the cable subscribers. The internet subscribers don't have to pay that fee. I'm not sure why, but let's leave it at that. Out of just alone what the city of Kingston collects is, up until now, I believe it's $410,000. Is that correct? You could if that's not correct, please correct me if I'm wrong. In any form. So the resolution from the council was crafted saying that there's supposed to be 5 appointees to the cable commission, which there were in the past. There were 5 members, city residents. No, I believe there was no city workers allowed to be on, or even aldermans, or even anybody. It was supposed to be the members of the cable rural subscribers there. So, and then each town, there's Marlborough, Hurley, Kingston, Rosendale, and the SOAP is, they don't collect, the SOAP is right now, because that's where the station is, over there, being provided, the calendar, or anything. If anybody wants to put a show or whatever, you just have to burn a DVD. It's not as easy as putting it on the internet like we're doing now. So so each town appoints one member of the community to sit on that board. And that's the way it worked in the past. The one trouble is like that is because of the thinking of the past administration, and I'm not gonna, throw any swords here or remotes, all right, anybody. It's never been funded. It's always been like, well, we're gonna take this money, the extra tax from the cable subscribers, and we're gonna use this for plowing the streets, whatever we see fit. So we normally, my thinking is like, because Saudi's has a great public access, that, and actually, we're just actually had a meeting with New Paltz 23, and they actually get funded, but their funding just got cut for some reason, probably because of the whole stuff, Oklahoma taxes and stuff like that being. But let me go back to say that reality, if you want to get the public interact with government, even if you, because of the past of politics, it's going to happen. It can happen right now on the internet. You can't stop somebody going on YouTube and saying anything to do about Kingston or any, generally speaking. So I would suggest that the city would take that and invest in it and use it for emergency uses, or even like trying to come up with an idea of, this is the way I think that public access should be. Can you work with that? And then not funded it, don't, the city of Kingston, I would say, like, just at least $50,000 or even anything would benefit that station to make it more, I would say, informational, where you could put like, we're having a health issue here. Everybody needs to wear a mask in the city of Kingston. Right now the mayor goes on Facebook and posts this. There's no reason why he can't do that on that station. I've been doing his press conferences, his state of his city address. I've been to councils. I've been doing that for years, for like decades, since I've been involved. And I just got recognized from ISOP as being an advocate, and I've never really got anything but, no, you can't have any, you can't do that. And I'm fine with that. It's like, just Ulster told me flat out, I'm not getting any, there's no money coming to that station, regardless. And that's fine, because I'm going to take that recording of that meeting, and I'll let the public watch them, not me saying it, watch them saying it. While in turn, the cable subscribers are paying the franchise money to fund Ulster. But that's just the way every town should think of it as this is a good avenue for.
Randy Scott Childress had a question.
Go ahead.
Clark, do you have an idea of what the viewership was of the local public access before it was shut down in the turmoil that closed it?
It has to be this. Unless I'm sure I'm just looking at dollar signs, right? So to me, it's like I've never seen that much money being collected, and and from the past, I'm just guessing. Alone, I think it's like 6,000 or 7,000 cable subscribers in Kingston.
But I'm asking you for what you think the viewership was, not the number of cable subscribers.
I would say just the same as the viewership online. There's a lot of people that could, I'm able right now because I'm back working, driving a little bit, to pay $100 for cable and internet. But there's a lot of people that don't have that ability, so they're only getting the senior citizens. My mom is not going to do the internet thing. She's only going to get her news off that TV. So, and she gets a discount. So I'm saying all the senior residents, like Ogden Towers, all the mean, the city, right, actually should take a survey and see how many cable subscribers that they're missing out if they're not going to put any information on this station. That's what I would go with. I'm sure there's a lot. The city collects $410,000 in franchise fee, and the franchise fee from a cable subscriber is only like less than $4. So I mean, if you do the math, there's a lot of cable subscribers out there, and my understanding is like you really don't get them saying anything until like Spectrum raises their cable bill up, right, or caps them, which I'm sure it's going to come down to. I mean, there's nobody speaking for the cable person itself, and I look at it this way: it's like there's a lot of, I would say, viewerships. I can't tell you how many, but it was being watched to the point where, the city hall was getting phone calls, and not only city halls, but the rest of the towns, right? And it was just looked on with the politics of it. It was just looked on. It wasn't very positive. So I think you would find more people watching it or want to watch it if it was more. I mean, the more and more, like, I think you would probably should be more concerned about losing cable subscribers, right? Because the more cable subscribers that you lose, the less money that Kingston will collect. So it's like, I look at it as like, I don't know, can Kingston take a survey of how many cable and internet subscribers for Spectrum? Is that possible?
I'm not sure.
I'm sure it's possible. The question is, what would the cost be and where would the money come from?
Well, I received a piece of document. I think it was an audit, but that was years ago. But I wasn't really supposed to. But anyway, it's nothing that can't be foiled, right? So they have to answer that question as far as like in a franchise agreement, right? How many cable subscribers are there? Or you could probably just take your fee that you and divide it up if how many people are paying. Like if you look on your bill, I'm not sure if you get cable. It would show you if you only get internet, you don't pay that franchise. So you're losing that fee by somebody just going on the internet.
So Clark, I have a question because we were confused last month about what your request actually was, because it seemed like you were asking for a commission to be set up, but now
it was already set up. It was already set up.
Well, your communication said Kingston doesn't have any appointees to that commission. So and now you're asking. It seems like you're asking for us to establish a public access channel. So can you just clarify what your request is?
I apologize. Yes, I want to clarify that because I listened to last month's meeting, and I definitely want to clarify it. And it's plain right there. A resolution of 137 in 1995 is a resolution for public access. Now the state public doesn't really enforce it that much. It's up to the city. I believe, for my heart, City Kingston Common Council does not make a resolution that they don't enforce. I would believe, right? So that, and I was trying to convince the mayor of that, and he's the power to be, right, to appoint people or not to appoint. Regardless, if there's not a commission in place, there's nobody that the cable subscriber can go to but the mayor's office or this meeting or the common council. The commission was set up for a voice for the cable subscribers as far as what goes on public access and how the service is going and what we're getting out of it. That's what the setup was for. It was for the right of way. It was not only, well, you guys collect the money. The money is going to be like my furthest goal, because I know it's going to be very hard for me to convince, because the way things are going right now, to convince the city of Kingston that, you know, they should pay for the station too. But I'm sure right now, Hurley is doing a public access. They're going to set up a public access. They're appointing somebody to the commission. I'm not sure what idea they have this, but they can't have that public access commission without Kingston. It all sits on the template of Kingston, and it all comes to the mayor, and then it's supposed to go to the council, and then you guys vote on who sits on the board itself on that. And then you have a liaison from this committee, or laws and rules / cable, to be appointed, and they're supposed to like be the point man of what's going on.
Does anybody have a question? Dan, can you clarify for us what that resolution he's referring to is intended to do?
The resolution was intended to set up a commission to administer a benefit that was provided pursuant to a contract that expired 20 years ago. The contract expired, it's no longer relevant.
Okay. Yes, Alderman Worthington?
So then is Clark, are you asking us to reestablish that commission that is no longer in effect?
Yes, but the contract she's talking about is the cable subscriber. So are we not under contract with Spectrum Cable?
We have a different contract with a different cable provider. The contract that led to the commission expired decades ago.
Which was, can I just clarify that the contract was set up through Time Warner, which was purchased by Spectrum Cable, and it's renewed every 10 years, and it hasn't been renewed since the last time it expired in 2016, from my knowledge.
Chairman, I don't know if you want me to answer that.
Yes, please, Mayor.
Yeah, so there is, it is true that we have not been able to get a new contract negotiated with Spectrum and Charter since, it expired before I took office, and the city back then, with the Common Council's support, hired a law firm to do both an audit of the bills and receipts. It was a utility-based audit, as well as to complete hopefully a successful negotiation with Charter Communications, and that is still, we are with dozens of other New York municipalities that have not been able to successfully do that, mostly due to Charter's difficulty in negotiating new contracts. And so, in the negotiations, cities just like ours across the state have asked for, as part of these negotiations, additional funding supports to help provide free or low-cost internet at our community centers, to be able to provide government access channel. We've asked for all of that as part of those negotiations, but again, nothing has come out of that. And our reading of the tea leaves from the FCC, which is even outside of New York State, makes it seem as though none of that is going to come to fruition. And the intermunicipal agreement that Dan just spoke of did expire many, many, many years ago. And so there is no longer kind of a multi-community jurisdictional approach to this cable access channel, which then creates a whole variety of issues as to who actually even owns the channel, who would have access to the channel, and that, could City of Kingston subscribers have their own channel, or would that channel also have to be shared with Hurley and Ulster, and then it really diffuses the concept, because if we were to create a government channel where our common council meetings and could be broadcast live on cable, our subscribers would want to see our meetings. They don't necessarily care about the town of Ulster town board meetings. But when you have a cable system that is monopolized like ours, all of that is lost. And that's why I think over at least the 5 years now that I've been here, we've really tried to at least diversify the opportunities for the public to connect with us, with everything that we've now done with, newsletters electronically and websites and Facebook and YouTube. And we have tried to recognize that it is at least a content that we can control compared to, cable systems that are outside of our control and under the jurisdiction of the FCC, which really limits the ability for municipalities to use them. And so I wish there was an easy answer to this, and I recognize that this has been Clark's plight for a really long time, and I appreciate that, and I wish all of our citizens had the wherewithal to continue to fight for what they believe in, but I do see that this is a very difficult problem that is really outside of our ability at this moment to really make a meaningful impact in, especially while we're at this impasse with charter. And even after that impasse is over, the ability to invest in our own local TV station is just, it may be beyond our reach as a small city at this point in time.
Thank you, Mayor. Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you, Clark, for that. We'll continue to look into this, and hopefully a contract will be reached soon enough.
Okay.
All right.
No, and I respect your willingness to hear me out and have the mayor here, even if I disagree with the mayor. It's a good thing. I mean, any like, it's kind of like, I know it's kind of hard. Spectrum is not an easy, I would say, negotiation, I'm sure, but we, as a city, it's my right of what now. Our right of way is ours, and it's like we're entitled to that. And if as a city resident alone, if I'm not going to get anywhere with campaigning about public access, I'll be like, well then, why is the pole still on, sticking out of the grounds and the wires across the street? You know what I mean? It's like it's not right. But I really want to let you know that I've been following the FCC for since the pandemic, and they're looking to set up a committee about the emergency broadband internet. So I signed up to it, and if I get called on, I definitely would like to represent the city of Kingston in any way, fashion when it comes to internet or cable, because I like it knowledgeable, and I know the whole public access won't ever come back the way it should be, but the way the technology is, you could utilize both to keep it flowing on that. And I think that's what the FCC right now is missing, is they're just letting the whole cable thing like fly out the window. When they do that, then you know what's going to happen. The money's going to go with it too. So if I was the city or town, I would say there's an opportunity here. Let's grab it. And I guess the mayor just mentioned about everybody grabbing their own channel, which I see that now, but that doesn't benefit the senior citizen watching the TV. and they're only paying for TV. They don't care about the internet thing. And a lot of people don't or trust the internet. And I respect that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Clark, and thank you for your commitment.
Yeah.
All right. Next item on our agenda is, I don't know if Mayor Noble wanted to jump back in for this part. It's ratifying the Public Safety Task Force proposal. Alderwoman Hirsch, do you have a question?
Yeah, Jeffrey, Chairman Morrell, thank you. I just wanted to bring up that the communication that I had sent in November that was on the agenda for laws and rules hasn't been back on the agenda regarding the reporting for the building departments.
Yes, I had reached out to Alderman Davis about having the, because I believe the decision then was to try to enforce what we already have on the books and see how that works out before we increase the amount of reporting. So I had reached out to Alderman Davis and President Schott about having it possibly happen at a public safety meeting, since I remembered back when I started in public safety, the building, the director of building, which was who was Tom Tiano then, used to attend the public safety meetings. I don't remember him giving reports, but I remember that he was present at those meetings. So I think President Schott was going to reach out to Alderman Scott Childress to see if we could have the building director come to the next caucus, since the whole council would be present, and then we can discuss how we want the report to happen, when and how often, and how much detail we need on the report, and then which committee it would be reported to.
But it was on the agenda for laws and rules, not public safety. And we ended the meeting with, Corporation Counsel saying that they were going to check with IT to see if this was something that could be done monthly with Municity. Downloaded into a report downloaded into Excel. So.
And Jeffrey, after that meeting, I did speak to IT and was advised that creating that report would not be that complicated. It's just a matter of identifying what cells you want to put into the report. I don't believe that Alderman Hirsch is requesting any personal information be included, but rather just receiving a report with regard to basic statistics that can be pulled off Municity.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and I did. This is Alderman Tony Davis, and I looked at that, and I believe I reported back that is a quarterly thing, and that they are only whoever the building safety person is only has to come or give that report on a quarterly basis. So that's why I had mentioned and to Jeffrey, Alderman Morrell, and Alderwoman and Schott, and that we should start that up in March, because then I would push it for and every 3 months that we will get a report of some type. And that report is not intense. All that report has to do is state any, I believe, building permits to that effect. And so I believe, and Madam Chair was going to follow up with Steve Knox in Building and Safety, and to invite him to, I'm not sure, the next public safety, but then I stated that in the record, it doesn't state that he has to come to a laws and rules, or he or she has to report to laws and rules or public safety. Right. It says report to the council. And,
right.
And yeah. So that would be
exactly. And since
the next caucus.
Yes, and that's the point I was trying to make. It since the code doesn't specify which committee, we thought it might be more useful for him to report to caucus, since the full council would be present there.
I submitted a communication because I'd like to update the code so that we have, a written report monthly. So
Yeah, and at the time,
the whole council and what is going on in their wards. So
okay, yeah, and at the time when this committee looked at the communication, it was decided not to move on it, but just to try to enforce what's already there.
that's not true, Jeffrey. That we had a discussion that Dan Gartenstein is going to speak with IT. It was never a discussion to not move on it.
Your request was to increase the amount of reporting and the timing of the reporting, and at the time the committee discussed, why don't we try to enforce what's already in the code, because we're not getting any reporting at the time before we try to make it monthly.
Right, so it wasn't working the way that it was set up where they would come to a meeting and report. So I believe that it would be more effective to have a monthly report that's just in writing that goes to the whole council. So do you disagree that that would, be, effective for the council to have?
Well, my understanding of the discussion was at the time, I think Alderwoman Worthington and also Alderman O'Reilly said, it's on the code already that we're supposed to be getting a quarterly report, and we're not getting that. So let's try to get that. And if that doesn't work out, then we can come back and change it and make it more frequent than that.
No, and then Dan said that he was going to check with IT. So, and that's what he just stated, that he did check with them.
Correct. Yes, so we'll have him come to caucus and give us the first report in March.
With a download to an Excel spreadsheet that will be given.
But I believe that is something that I don't know where's the communication left out with Steve Knox, who's head of building safety. If he hasn't been that communication, he's not going to know that he needs to do a report. So those
right, because I submitted a communication to Laws and Rules to update our city legislation so that the reports would be monthly.
And at the moment that communication came, there was no motion or second to move forward with updating the code. So we decided we're going to have Steve Knox come and give us a report as the code states quarterly right now.
And he's supposed to come.
You can't just set it aside either. You didn't make a motion to set it aside.
Yeah, too.
Well, from what I understand is Steve Knox is supposed to come to the March meeting and give us a report. And then if he doesn't come to that meeting, or if we don't get that report in March, then we can move on to Alderwoman Hirsch's suggestion to amending the code. That's what my understanding was, is that we were going to see if we can get the quarterly reports first, and if that didn't work, then we would move further.
That's what I understood also.
All right, well, can Dan please come back?
I am here.
Okay, so I want to know if this is procedurally correct to just lay it aside without a vote and just request that somebody come to another meeting when this is on the agenda, was on the agenda as a communication for Laws and Rules.
I think technically you sent the communication to Laws and Rules. At that point, I believe you were not a member of Laws and Rules, correct?
Correct.
And I believe there was a discussion amongst the committee with regard to whether or not they wanted to move forward with your suggestion to amend the code to increase the frequency and to further outline what information was going to be requested. And I believe that no one on the committee made a motion to move an amendment forward. At the same time, no one made a motion to, table it or do anything with it. So, in many respects, the, letter of Robert's Rules wasn't followed. In any event, where you are right now is that there still does not seem to be a member of Laws and Rules that is interested in making a motion to amend the code. And they seem to be indicating that until they hear from Steve and until Steve complies with what's in existence now, they will continue to take it under advisement. But, whether it technically complies with Robert's Rules of Order, I don't believe that we follow Robert's Rules of Order, technically with regard to many things.
So then, I mean, if I remember, I think Steve Knox sent an email to us, indicating that this would be a little bit taxing on him, I'm paraphrasing what he said. And so I think that's why we decided, okay, if it's quarterly, let's keep it there and see and get in compliance with that. But my question to Dan is that then does the committee need to make a motion to say that we're going to enforce or make a motion to enforce what is now on the books? Do we need to do that now? Or can we do that now since this was an October communication?
I think we're descending into form over substance here on a lot of levels. I think that there is a provision in the code now that requires reports. That provision is not really clear with regard to what those reports would entail. And that in order to, get some clarity with regard to how you proceed, I think it's certainly reasonable to hear from Steve and also to have Steve communicate with IT to determine how taxing this really would be. I think that there's a difference between Steve coming to meetings and reporting on actual open investigations and providing a more detailed report than what could potentially be provided through IT through a search with appropriate cells. So I think you need more information with regard to actually what you're asking for and what the workload would be.
Yeah.
That make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
So Michelle, Alderwoman Hirsch, so would you be okay with then at the March meeting if we could get Steve Knox here to give us a report and say, it's on the books now that we're supposed to get this quarterly, and are you willing to do that? And if not, then we move forward then.
It's actually on the books in multiple areas of our code. It comes in under general legislation, it comes under zoning. So there's different areas of how often that they need to report to us and the information that they report to us. So I'm just trying to get it consolidated.
Yeah, so we don't need a motion to enforce what's already in the books. We just need to enforce it. And that was the idea of having him come to caucus and giving the first report to the full council. So I will follow up with that.
Thank you.
Okay, now, so now we can move back to the.
All right, sorry, so just one more question. Is this going to then appear as old business next month? Or are you just now going to make a motion and lay this aside?
We don't have to make a motion to lay it aside. We could come back to it. We said we would. And so, we've got, I think, a clear set of criteria here. We're going to see if we can get Steve to come and talk to us at caucus. We'll see how that goes. If that feels like we're getting enough information, then, we can proceed. If we feel like there's a problem, we can always come back to this.
Well, I think that just as a general rule for the whole council is that if we're going to follow Robert's rules in some instances, we should be following it consistently. So I don't think that it's beneficial to do so when it's convenient or not convenient.
I don't see how we're being inconsistent here. If something's not moved, we traditionally have not considered it further.
Right.
But
the council
bring something back. There's
the council has decided
there's no rule. There's no reason you can't just bring something back.
Right,
And I
but
think
you
that
also
we're setting a criteria here. We're setting a clear set of criteria. If something happens, we follow this path. If something else happens, we look at that path. It seems reasonable to me.
right, but we can't let legislation flounder. And also, it was stated that as of this year that we would be following Robert's rules in discussing things that are on the agenda with motion. So, and that's new this year. So I just believe that we should be consistent if we're going to follow Robert's rules.
Yeah, and I think we are being consistent. So I think we just disagree on that point. We can look at Robert's Rules of Order. I was just looking at a shorter version of it. It's not clear what happens if something does not get a second in that thing I was looking at. But we can look at Robert's Rules of Order and get into the deeper process that they talk about there. I think that'd be fine to do.
Thank you. So now, do I have a motion to discuss the ratifying of the task force proposal? Motion by Alderman Scott Childress. Do I have a second? Second by Alderwoman Worthington. Okay, now we enter into discussion. So we received the task force proposal. They did a wonderful job, a very hard job. We spoke with Lester Strong, had him speak to us at the Special Policing Committee. And I don't know if the mayor wants to speak on this.
Jeffrey, I just want to say, thank you, to both the task force members and also both the Kingston Police Commissioner and the Common Council liaisons that were a part of that process. I think, being able to have all of our branches of government, working together, as well as with the residents of Kingston, really led to a good, concrete approach to being able to work on a very difficult problem. And I think that everyone took their time and they put their heart and soul into the different areas that they were responsible for researching. And it was a really great model that I think that as we try to tackle some of our other tougher issues in the community, I think that it could make it's a good model for us to use. And I also want to thank the Common Council for your support in allowing us to bring on Lester Strong and the Peaceful Guardians Project. I think that use of city resources went a long way to making us, have a supportive process that moved along, and we had a very compressed time frame. And so I just want to thank you and thank the Common Council members for the work on the Special Policing Committee and for holding the public hearing and for helping kind of do your part, in this process. It really, I think, makes for a much better product at the end. So that's all I have to say, and I'll be around if anyone has any questions.
Thank you, Mayor. So the next step we have to do is ratify the receipt of, so basically saying that we've received the report and that we will, so to comply with the governor's mandate. And then the next step should be probably to refer to Corp Council to see which aspects of it can be implemented and what are the next steps. So any discussion? Alderman Scott Childress?
I too would like to thank the members of the task force, Lester Strong for his leadership, and Tony Davis for being the main conduit between the task force and the Common Council. I know they put a lot of work into it. There was a lot of difficult thinking too going into that. They did some very wide research, and I look forward to working on implementing various aspects of the report. But we need to keep reiterating, I think, that there are some clear issues here. One is that we're ratifying it. That doesn't mean that we are adopting every single recommendation in there, partly because we can't. Some of the recommendations would require referenda for city residents to vote on. Others are the province of the school board. So we'll be talking, and others probably would entail cooperation with the county, particularly the discussion about the Cahoots program. There's a lot of really, I think, wonderful stuff in the report. A lot of it is a question of how we work this out, and we'll look at doing this over a number of years as we get clearer on what's involved in each of the different recommendations made in the report. I think in the short term, there's a call for more data collection. And the mayor had put aside $100,000 in our budget for use, possible use rather, flowing out of the report. And so I think as we look at this in the next month or so, and working with the mayor, of course, to figure this out, the timeline, think about how to go about collecting some of that data and getting a head start on, or a quick start on this. Thanks.
Thank you. Alderwoman Worthington?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to the mayor and to Lester Strong. Reading the report, a few times, the team that you guys assembled, I really appreciate, the team that you put together. I think that it was a team that represented, the broad cross of the city. And so that's a good thing. And you can tell that they put a lot of work into it. You can tell that they love the city of Kingston and that they really want the best interest for the city. So I do appreciate that. And, I actually enjoyed reading the report a few times. And so, and I think Lester was the perfect conduit, the perfect facilitator in all of this. He's just gifted. He's gifted with bringing people together and listening to both sides and really taking everybody's recommendations and everyone's thoughts into consideration. And so I just want to I appreciate that. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what the council can implement and what the council can do with this re-envisioning this whole this police reform and, and bringing our city back together and making it better than what it is right now. So just thank you for that. I mean that from the bottom of my heart.
I echo that. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor, and thanks to everyone involved. Alderman O'Reilly?
Yeah, hi. Yeah, thank you for exactly. Thank everybody and Lester for putting this together. Tony, thank you. I'm getting a lot of calls about SROs. Their validity in schools. And I was wondering if anybody who worked on this could just speak about that piece, because I know there's a lot of people out there right now who are concerned about it. And, now's the time to talk about things like that. So if someone would just, discuss the SRO situation during, and how it applies, I'd appreciate that. Who actually worked on it,
I don't think any of the reporters of the task force are with us, Patrick, if that's what you're asking for. The mayor, I think, can speak to something of your question.
Yeah, I think I could speak just more globally to the fact that we recognize that the SRO issue is something of interest. I think as you saw at the public hearing, there were folks very supportive of SROs and others who were interested in a different model and not having police officers in the buildings. And so the report looked at a variety of different, national statistics when it comes to how SROs are used in schools in terms of the number of cases in schools and officers and interactions. One of the key themes was that SROs should not be used for school disciplinary issues and that they should be really there to protect the safety of students and not get involved in those issues. We do and have made really big strides here at least since I've been here The contract with the school district used to be 1.5 pages, and that was it. Now it's almost 10. And it includes a lot of language related to the actual role that SROs are supposed to play and what they're not supposed to do in the schools. And that has really helped to clarify. And I do think that we still have a lot of work to do to help educate the community about the issue. And as Rennie mentioned before, having local data is really critical when talking about the SRO issue. Being able to understand the types of incidents that the SRO officers do respond to in schools and what don't they respond to in schools, and what type of interactions those are, and do any of them lead to arrests? We don't have that local data in a way that can be easily shared and provided to the community. And so that, I think, was the big takeaway, was that there were lots of ideas talked about in the report, but in order to make any firm conclusions by us or by the school district who hires our officers to be there, we really need more data collection. And so I would think that that's one takeaway for the council and us to work on together with the district, is to really be able to try to ascertain that data going forward. So that's kind of my piece of this, Patrick. I don't know if that helps really answer your question in particular, but at this point, no change is planning to occur at this moment in the schools related to the SROs. We have a contract with the school district. They're going to be in the schools through June, and that's when, during the next, many months, both the school district and the city can continue to have conversations about data collection, their role, SROs play, and what can we do to improve that. But as of now, this report and the ratification of this report won't have any immediate changes to the program tomorrow.
Alderwoman Hirsch.
Hi, it's Alderwoman Hirsch. I just want to say that I know that this is definitely the SRO issue is a hot point with the community, but I think that a lot of people also don't. I work as a special education advocate and an advocate for children, and I attend actually a lot of disciplinary actions for the school districts throughout the county. And there's actually federal laws that dictate when students would need to be charged. There's no, sometimes there's no wiggle room around it, whatever if we were to put anything in place. So there's instances of, and I'm not saying this has ever happened in Kingston, but if a student brings a gun, they have to, by federal law, be charged with a felony. So.
Any other questions? Alderwoman Worthington?
Yeah, let me comment on something. The mayor brought up the agreement that the school has with the SROs. I think that was actually mentioned in the report about the agreement, and I don't know if it's being enforced or not, but I think maybe a first step, with this whole issue of SROs, is to make sure whatever we have in place right now is being enforced. Unfortunately, it seems like a lot of the things that we do have in place right now, we have an issue with enforcement. And so, the agreement, it sounds like the agreement says what can be done and what cannot be done, or what the SOR should be doing and should not be doing. And so that may be a first step with tackling this issue and making sure that that agreement is actually enforced. You understand what I'm saying? So, the SRO is a hot topic right now. It's a big ticket item, and we're going to have to do something about it. We're not going to be able to push it to the side. So we're going to have to do something about it. And maybe it starts with the agreement that's actually in place right now.
That's a very good point. And yeah, just to clarify that we will continue to look into this. both us and with collaboration with Corp Counsel. What we're doing today does not change anything that's, it doesn't change the agreement. It doesn't change what's being currently done. We're just to reiterate, accepting the report that we received and acknowledging that it took place and that the task force did their job. Okay. Any other questions, comments? Okay, hearing no other questions, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of ratifying the Public Safety Task Force proposal? Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night, okay?
Have a good night.
Yeah.
Okay, next item on the agenda, we have a communication from Alderwoman Hirsch on short-term rentals. If everybody remembers, we got a report, I believe it was last month or the month before, from Alderman Scott Childress, who chairs the Housing Committee, which Alderwoman Hirsch is a member of, and I believe this is the result of the contact at the committees. Alderwoman Hirsch, do I have a motion to enter into discussion? Motion by Alderman Childress.
What we generally do is, if somebody's making a presentation, right, they make the presentation. So if John Schulteis was making the presentation, he or she would make the presentation.
Okay.
And then the question is, do we have discussion? So I would be happy to follow that same model here.
Okay. Sure.
So,
so Alderwoman Hirsch, if you would like to speak on this.
Hi. So the first part of my presentation or the communication is regarding data and understanding how many short-term rentals there currently are in the city of Kingston and are paying a bed tax to the county so that we can get an understanding of what the magnitude of the situation is. When I was doing some research on short-term rentals and the county bed tax, I found that the county actually has intermunicipal agreements with about 14 municipalities so that they share data. They have a data collection system. They have a program, the county has a program where they scour the internet looking for advertisements for short-term rentals. And if they are not already in the database, they make contact with the owner of the short-term rental and sign them up to be part of the, to have an agreement where they are, paying a bed tax and reporting what is going on so that they are, considered a legitimate short-term rental in the eyes of the county. The county has also entered into agreement with Airbnb, so they have data on what Airbnbs, the number of Airbnbs there are in each municipality. And even though that they have the Airbnb agreement, they are still doing the data collection online. So there's two modes of receiving data. So when I found these agreements, I reached out to Corporation Counsel to see if we have this intermunicipal agreement, and we don't. And I think it's just very important that we have one. I spoke to County Legislator Dave Donaldson, who represents Ward 9, to see if this is something that could be done. And he said yes, and it's we can have it. They can bring it to the Ulster County Legislator in March. So they would pass their side of things, and then the council would also have to approve to enter into an agreement to also receive that data. So I think that that is a really important first step, that we know what we're dealing with and it's not just anecdotal. I sent in a copy of a county's agreement that they have with another municipality that I found on the county website.
Thank you.
So I think that we need a committee report and a vote to, enter into that agreement.
Yeah, I would make that motion to enter into to enter into an agreement like that for the purposes of collecting that kind of information.
Okay, and I believe
Dan
Dan Garnstein wanted to say something.
And the resolution would just authorize the mayor to enter into the agreement. And certainly the collection of the information is critical before moving forward with any legislation for regulating this type of endeavor. You can't enact legislation that limits a property owner's ability to use their property in a particular way until you document that there is a need. And the need cannot be documented based strictly on anecdotal statements by members of the community. The data is available, and that would be the first step in enacting any kind of legislation.
Okay, so we have a motion by Alderman Scott Childress. Alderman Tellerman, did I see that you, were you second?
I was, had a comment.
Okay.
Just so everybody knows.
We need a second first in order to move on with the discussion. Is there a second? Second by Alderwoman Worthington.
So
Don.
Everyone knows, there's been a lot of talk about really putting some regulations in place around short-term rentals and Airbnbs. The idea, should we limit them? Should we not limit them? Should we say that for you to have an Airbnb, you have to live on the premise? And all of these things, I think, are best addressed in our code review. It's another example of why we really need to try to move forward with our zoning code rewrite that we've been talking about. So a lot of these specifics related to rules around Airbnb can be addressed later when we rewrite our code.
Alderman Scott Childress.
Yes, I think there's definitely some wisdom in that. I'm wondering though, our current code has a fair amount of regulation relating to certain kinds of short-term housing, hotels, bed and breakfasts, transient houses, and so forth. So I'm wondering if Dan Gartenstein can comment on whether those apply to short-term rentals, or if we would have to add a new definition, and that would be tantamount to creating legislation.
I believe that the second part of Alderman Hirsch's communication related to refining the definition of hotel that is currently the numerous definitions of hotel that are currently in our code and reconciling them with the county definition, which is the basis for them collecting the occupancy tax. One of the biggest issues that we have is that currently we have three definitions in our code for hotel. They are not consistent, and they do not mirror the language of the county code. Basically, a hotel is defined as overnight accommodations for transient guests. And then there is a list of types of facilities that constitute hotels. So, for example, a bed and breakfast, a boarding house, a motel, or a different type of overnight accommodations, they're all hotels, but they're different subcategories of hotel. So the next step after you pass the resolution to get the information from the county with regard to how many Airbnbs they have and who they're collecting occupancy tax from is taking a look at the three definitions that are currently in the code, adopting one uniform definition and making sure that that definition matches the county definition, because again, that's the basis of the county collecting the occupancy taxes.
Right, so I sent in a proposed definition and then examples of all the places in our code.
Let's vote on the motion that's already on the floor first. So I have the resolution here to authorize the mayor to initiate a shared service agreement with Ulster County to share information relating to short-term rentals. All in favor? Oh, Patrick O'Reilly? You have a question, Patrick?
Yeah, hi, Patrick Wright. Is there any cost involved in this? And isn't this just public information already?
Not public information. That's why you need the intermunicipal agreement.
Is there gonna be a cost?
No.
The county is already collecting the information, so the agreement would just be for us to get the information from the county.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, motion passes unanimously. And now we're moving on to the second part of your presentation. So Alderwoman Hirsch, you can go ahead.
Okay, sorry. Rennie had started the conversation, so yeah, he had asked Garden Scene about that. So that's why I was moving on. So I had sent in communication that address that showed a proposed hotel and motel definition that could be updated throughout our code. There are multiple places in our code that have a different definition that includes the definition of hotels and motels in the City of Kingston general legislation under Chapter 27711, under zoning code section 4053 and section 3601 of the sales and use tax. So I sent in a copy of each of those sections so that you can see that the definition is different. I sent in then a copy of the definition under the county, under their tax code, and then a proposed definition of hotel motel being a building or portion of it which is regularly used and kept open for lodging of transient guests on an overnight basis. The term hotel or motel includes short-term rentals, an apartment hotel, motor court or inn, tourist cabins, boarding house or club or similar hotel and motel type of accommodations by whatever name designated, whether or not meals are served, and shall include those facilities commonly known as bed and breakfast and short-term rentals. So we would just be looking to create a uniform language in 3 areas of our city code and zoning.
We need a motion, so I have a motion by Alderman Scott Childress. Do I have a second?
Before you go there, Jeff, just for clarification, one of the definitions currently appears in the zoning code. So with regard to that definition, you have to follow the zoning code amendment procedure.
Okay.
So the motion this evening should be to adopt the uniform hotel definition in the 2 sections that Ms. Hirsch identified. And then with regard to the definition that's currently contained in section 405, that the proposal to change that definition to be referred to the county planning department, the city planning department, and the Historic Landmark Preservation Commission for them to report back to us. And then the anticipation would be that you would move to amend the zoning code definition after receiving comments back from those entities.
Okay, so do I need 2 separate committee reports for those? One to amend the definition and one to refer to the 3 bodies. Okay.
It'd be cleaner.
Yeah.
No?
Okay, so let me just write that quick. So I have a motion by Alderman Scott Childress. Do I have a second? Second by Alderwoman Worthington. And I saw somebody's hand up. Patrick, did you have your hand up?
You want to write first, or?
Yeah, I was going to write while you guys discuss.
Oh, well.
Go ahead, Alderman Scott Childress.
If you can double task. Yes, I think this is definitely a positive step. I think it's a great idea to use what we've got, and to, certainly anything that brings consistency to our definitions is really important for us to undertake. So I'm generally in favor with this idea. I don't think that this goes far enough, so I think we need to consider. But I think so. For example, when we're talking about short-term rentals, there are things that make those unique to overnight lodging. They're different from bed and breakfast. They're different from hotels. So, I was thinking something to explore down the road. How we define these things. And the main concern that I have in all this is just being clear. So that somebody who initiates a bed and breakfast, they know what's involved, they know, what kind of inspections might be required, they know if there are any particular limits. So some of that would just be informational. I'm sure the city could produce a pamphlet that defines those. So I think that this is a good first step, but I also think, as Don Tollerman mentioned, we can revisit this when we look at our general overhaul of the zoning code to see if we want to be more particular or not.
Alderman Davis, then Dan Gartenstein, and then Alderwoman Hirsch.
I just have Alderman Davis here. I just have a question. So is this going to include, and not sure of the language in regard to the cabins that Hudson River is currently installing? Is that in this language? Mm-hmm. Is that kind of lodging is in here? So are we looking at every lodging that Hudson River is including on their property? Is that be included in this language?
I would think so.
Dan?
The proposal down at the Brickyard was initially approved as a hotel. So it definitely covers, that facility. But looping back to what Rita had said earlier, and tying to what Michelle had been discussing, we currently have a provision in the city code for the regulation of hotels that is not enforced. I know this is a huge shock. But it's there, and it needs to be reevaluated and tailored to the various different types of facilities that all fall under and constitute, types of hotels. Hotel operators are supposed to secure licenses from the city. There's supposed to be an entire process whereby they are inspected and regulated. So through the legislation that already exists and through refining the definitions, we can accomplish most of what has been brought to our attention as concern. One of the most important parts about getting the data from the county is so that we can see where these facilities are, what they are, because there are a number of different types of operations. Just because they are all called short-term rentals or they're all called Airbnbs doesn't mean they operate the same way and that the same issues are present. You have single rooms within occupied homes. You have apartments that are being leased. You have what amounts to accessory apartments that are being leased. And through securing the data from the county, we can actually create, for want of a better term, a spreadsheet that identifies where these properties are, what they are, and whether or not and what concerns they raise. So the framework is already in our code. We just need the data, we need the definitions clarified, and then we move from there. There are also significant concerns about adopting regulations that essentially retroactively limit property owners' rights to use their property. And the vast majority of these properties that are currently in operation that are paying taxes will constitute pre-existing non-conforming uses that we can't just retroactively impose regulations on, particularly because they've been registered through the county and they are paying taxes. Similarly, a proposal that was discussed last month in terms of the property owner losing their status if the property is sold, again, is not permissible because it's a pre-existing non-conforming use that runs with the property. If there's a discontinuation of the use for a significant period of time, then you can lose the pre-existing non-conforming use status. But any regulation that we pass and any statute that we pass has to conform with, has to be enforceable. It has to be lawful. And it's a very layered issue that has to be addressed step by step.
Alderman O'Reilly? Oh, sorry, Alderwoman Hirsch was next, and then you, Patrick.
Right, so just to piggyback on what Dan was just explaining, our city legislation, general legislation, chapter 277, hotel, motel, right? There is an area that deals with licensing, right? And that would require the building department to inspect, and for a hotel, motel technically to pay a fee to the city clerk. But if you go to the city fee schedule, there is no fee for a hotel, motel, or short-term rental. So these are all things that would need to be built upon if we decide based on the data that will come in from the county and we see what we're dealing with. So this is definitely just, the foundation, if you want to call it, of, building up and creating what we need, and based on the code that already exists and expanding our code.
Thank you. Alderman O'Reilly?
This is an interesting topic. Tony brought up a little outlier down there that the cabins or tents that are being set up down at the Hudson Brickyard. How do we regulate them? A few other thoughts came to mind. How about someone who might just allow people for free to use their spare room or their spare apartment because they ask? Is that regulated? We all in our wards have people living in basements all over the place, garages, and to get anybody to take a look at that and or even try to evict those people out of those places is I believe me, it's not that you want to evict them, but you got neighbors complaining, things like that about people living in basements and attics all over the city, and we know there's a housing crisis. This is going to be a very difficult thing. Can people set up a tent city in their driveway or their side lot? Is that permissible? And allow people just to live there for free? Any kind of housing is going to need to be regulated. If we're talking about short-term rentals, how about just short-term stays? If I'm not collecting money for the stay, and I'm letting, let's say, a certain group of teachers, let's say school teachers, any school teacher who gives this person a call can throw a tent in their yard or live in their garage. There's so many little slight things that could come into play here. Is the fact that they're not paying, even though there seem to be some type of short-term situation there, is the fact that they're not paying, is that okay, or should be a hotel tax on that?
I think you should look at the code that we have on the books already regarding occupancy and building, occupancy permits and.
Coupled with New York state law and the building code with regard to permissible occupancy in a home. I mean, obviously, people have a right to have house guests. What separates a house guest from providing overnight accommodations in a hotel is the payment of a fee, which is what leads to the occupancy tax that is paid to the county. In terms of setting up a tent in your backyard or, putting up a shed in the driveway, that's something that's covered by the New York State Building Code with regard to what constitutes a habitable space. And whether or not there is, running water, kitchen facilities and the like. And there is extensive state law with regard to, those issues. But certainly there is nothing in this proposal that precludes someone from having a house guest.
Alderman Davis and then Alderman Dollarman.
So Alderman Davis here, two things. So, and I know this is down the line, but Alderwoman Hirsch and mentioned it. So the counties, so these things are, they're going to have to pay the county and pay the city taxes, right?
No, they already pay the county taxes. They always have been paying the county taxes.
So now
the county has an office that monitors short-term rental sites and other hotel sites and collects taxes. They now have a contract with Airbnb where they collect directly from Airbnb. And those taxes are already being generated, they're already being paid. There is a provision in our code, again, back to what Ms. Worthington had indicated, a provision that's never been addressed or enforced, that speaks about the city collecting a 2% occupancy tax on hotels. There is an issue with regard to whether this is, in fact, the same tax that the county is paying, that the county is charging, or not, or whether we would need state legislation to authorize us to actually collect that. I don't believe there's any proposal on the table now to start collecting that 2% tax that is provided in the city code. It's just one more instance where the code speaks of hotels and is inconsistent with regard to definitions and application.
Okay, and my follow-up question is that, so if these are hotels, then I would create more work for building and safety. Because if I'm hearing this correctly, and right now the hotels in Kingston are not being inspected by building safety. So I believe I heard someone say, and that these would fall underneath building and safety to then go and inspect. So I would create more another task for building and safety.
Well, again, that's not necessarily the case. Building safety does inspections of a number of these properties in different contexts. It's another reason why the data from the county is so important, so that we can clarify how many of these properties that are currently being taxed are already being inspected by the Building Safety Division, either under the Landlord Registration Act or under other provisions of the code. Okay. We don't know this because we've never seen the data.
All right, thank you.
Alderman Dollarman. You're muted, Don.
Thanks, Jeffrey. The Hudson Brickyard properties are mentioned by a couple people. Just to be clear, that's a hotel. There's no tents down there. There are cabins, and they'll follow whatever rules the hotel, that are on the books or on our code for hotels are actually being operated by a hotel group called the Salt Hotel. So just to clarify that.
Thank you.
They are also subject to extensive review by the planning board each and every time they submit an amendment to their site plan.
Alderwoman Worthington and then Alderwoman Hirsch.
Yeah, so it seems right now, all we're asking for right now is data collection, right? And, a lot of these things that we're talking about now would come further down the road. But in order to even do any of those things that we're talking about right now, we need to get the data. And so I think, that's what our focus is right now.
Well, also addressing the ambiguous definitions, because that really is the very beginning of the process. And including a consistent definition in our code of what constitutes hotels with examples, but also with the language that Alderman Hirsch referenced, which basically says these are examples, but any other type of facility that provides overnight accommodation for transient guests would also constitute a hotel, is the first step. Those are the first two steps to moving forward.
Go ahead, Alderwoman Hirsch.
Yes, and just regarding public safety and the building department, you know, the sample intermunicipal agreement that I sent in from the county says that they're, you know, providing this information to municipalities so that municipalities can address health and safety concerns and quality of life issues determined through local zoning and code enforcement. It's not about creating more work. It's about the health and safety of our residents and the visitors coming into our city. So I do think that's paramount.
Alderman O'Reilly.
Will the city of Kingston, does the city of Kingston receive hotel, part of the county's hotel tax?
My understanding is that the hotel tax goes to the County Department of Tourism by legislation with the county. I've also have heard that there was mention in Governor Cuomo's State of the State address that there's a possibility of legislation being passed that so that municipalities can collect a tax on short-term rentals. I can get a copy of that, you know, any proposed legislation.
Thank you.
At the state level.
Okay. Alderman Scott Childress.
Yeah, I think that this move to clarify the definitions here is the important first step. I am concerned, though, that you know, we've got parts of this in at least 3 different areas of our code. So down the line, I hope we'll keep looking at this in terms of thinking of how to bring it all together, just so that everybody's clear and everybody has a basic understanding of what the rules are, what makes common sense, you know, regulation. We want to encourage folks. I've got a couple in my ward who, you know, have a short-term rental room that they rent out. It's a really crucial part of their income. We want to protect that. We want to make it clear too that, you know, there's limits to what people can do with anything that they're trying to term as short-term rental regulation, because we also want to make sure that folks who have bed and breakfasts are able to, you know, have a lively business that's not receiving unfair competition. People have hotels. We want to make sure that, you know, it's clear what those are. So I think this is a great step toward that.
Okay. Any other discussion or questions? Okay, so the first committee report I have is to adopt a uniform definition of hotel throughout the city code to reflect the County of Ulster's definition as per attached, and I will attach the definition that Alderwoman Hirsch had forwarded. Is there a motion? Motion by Rennie Scott Childress, second by Rita Worthington. All in favor? All opposed? Oh, okay. So it passes unanimously. And the second committee report I have is to refer the amendment of the definition of hotel in the zoning code to the HLPC, Ulster County Planning Board, and Kingston Planning Board. Is there a motion? Motion by Rennie Scott Childress, second by Rita Worthington. All in favor? Okay, thank you. Passes unanimously. Okay, we're moving along.
Jeffrey, Alderman Chairman.
Yes,
I
yes, go
just
ahead,
want to say thank you,
Alderman Hirsch.
and I appreciate everybody's concern and support of moving forward on all of this. I think it's really important, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here, and thank you.
And thank you for all your work and research.
Thank you.
Okay, next item, we have the referral from the planning department regarding the rezoning of 79 Hurley Avenue. We had a public hearing about it. It was referred out for comment to Ulster County Planning Board and the Kingston Planning Board. We received those comments. So is there a motion to enter? Oh, sorry, the applicant, Scott Dutton, is here. Did you want to say something before we move? Scott?
No, we're just here to watch. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And answer any questions if you have any.
Okay, is there a motion? Motion by Alderman Scott Childress. Is there a second? Second by Patrick O'Reilly. Okay, so any question?
We're happy. I think that Bob Ryan and Scott Dutton are doing the work on this building to make it a lively place, and so I support this resolution.
Ditto. Anybody else on the question? All right, so I have here a resolution. Oh, Patrick O'Reilly?
Hi, thanks. Yeah, this building's familiar to me. I used to go down and get my newspapers at the circulation desk down there, and I remember all the old characters there and the huge wheels of paper, just as big as I was. They were as tall as I was, at the age of 12 when I was down there delivering newspapers, and what a great experience that was for me. And I'm kind of saddened that the Freeman building's gone. My brothers and sisters remember it down at the Strand, on the corner down the Strand. That's where the circulation of the Freeman was down there, where maybe it might have been. I don't remember that far back, but it might have been in where the Mariners Harbor is, in that area right there where the circulation desk was. But I remember when they moved into the old Grand Union. That was a Grand Union at one time. A grocery store, and I believe it was a Grand Union. Just about, I was young then, and they changed it to the Daily Freeman, and just brings back all the memories, all the people that worked in that building. It was filled with busy people running around. I can remember when I was a kid in the newspaper, and it was very exciting to be in there. And it's kind of sad that young people don't have that same opportunity that I had to go there, pick up my newspapers and see where it was all happening. And you could see Hugh Reynolds sitting across at his desk, and it was, and they all had little cubicles they all worked in. They all they all went back and forth and discussed things. In the editor's room, I can remember, was like a glass room, and you can see the editor in there, and they're always talking about important things. And it's just a very exciting place. And I'm glad that Bob and Scott are doing something great with the building. So it's good to see it transformed.
Sounds like Pat needs to write a history.
I love hearing Patrick's stories. Patrick, you should take Scott's offer to give you a tour. What they're planning for the building is really exciting.
Yeah, I would like to see that.
Anytime. Happy to give a tour to anybody.
All right, so any other discussion? Okay, so what I have here is a resolution to rezone 79 Hurley Avenue as per attached from O2 to C2, and accepting the comments submitted to this body by the Ulster County Planning Board and the City of Kingston Planning Board. All in favor? Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you, Scott. We look forward to seeing it after it's done. Okay, and the last item on our agenda is a request for a release of reverter. I believe we've dealt with this already twice since last year. When the City of Kingston sold property through auction, there was always a clause attached that said that they needed permission from the Common Council if they ever wanted to sell the property. So this is a request for 162 to 188 Fourth Avenue. They have a clause, they purchased the property through auction from the city. And they have a clause there that says if they want to sell, they need permission from us to remove that clause. So the owner, I think, wants to place the property on the market, and they're seeking for us to do that.
I move that we grant that request.
Okay, is there a second? Second by Alderwoman Worthington. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Okay, passes unanimously. That concludes our agenda. Any other discussion? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Rennie Scott Childress, second by Patrick O'Reilly. All in favor?
Thanks for a smooth meeting, Jeff.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. Good work, Jeffrey.
Okay. Good night. Thank you. Good night, Dan. Thank you, Lisa.
Good night. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Michelle.
Good night.
Good night.